How do they call a seat when only 6% of the vote has been counted? This was a question sent in to me by a follower. I'm Dr. Nicole Mealing from Simplify Stats, where we translate data concepts into everyday language. So here's what I found. So here's the guide to calling the election. The ABC does a fabulous prediction on election night, headed up by Antony Green, and there are two things that they need on the night for each seat. They need to know who the top two candidates are for the seat, who are likely to win, what their results were in the last election, and then what the swing is of the booths phoning in their results on the night. I'm going to look at Braddon in Tasmania and try and predict the 2019 election using the 2016 results for Braddon, which had the two top candidates between the Labor and the Liberal Party, and the Labor candidate won with 52.2% of the vote. So let's assume that Abbotsford was the first booth to phone in their results, and in that booth we actually have that the Liberal Party had the most votes, the Liberal candidate with 61%. However, this was a drop from the previous election, so it's actually a swing towards the Labor Party. So the way the prediction works is we take the previous result between the Labor and the Liberal candidate, and then we take this swing we're observing in Abbotsford and add it to that result. And we find the prediction telling us that Labor is going to win with 53.1% of the vote. So let's add a second booth, Acton. Now what we're going to see is what the overall swing is. So there was a higher vote for the Labor Party, but a big drop since the 2016 election. So now this swing of 8.1% towards the Liberal Party is added to the previous election result. And now the prediction is for the Liberal Party candidate to win the seat of Braddon with 55.9% of the vote. So let's keep having a look at 18 booths sending in their results and looking at the swing for those. And what we see here is that there's a bit of movement in the swing early on with less than 3% of the vote counted. We first have the Labor Party and then the Liberal Party candidates being predicted to win the seat of Braddon. However, from about 3% of the vote being counted, it is fairly stable, looking like the Liberal Party candidate is going to win the seat. Now, if we hadn't looked at the swing, if we had have just looked at the 2019 results being phoned in, this is what we see. We see a lot of movement. Okay, so see how the two lines are crossing back on top of each other. First, the Liberal Party is predicted to win the seat, then the Labor Party for the next couple of booths, and it's a bit of neck and neck, Labor, Liberal, and with 18% of the vote counted, we're still not sure if they're going to cross again or if the Liberal candidate is actually going to win the vote. Now, some of what's going on here is that the smallest booths phone in their results first because they're simply the fastest to count, and small booths can vote differently to larger booths. Rural booths can vote differently to more urban booths in the same seat. But the swing is usually pretty stable across all those booths, regardless of how people tend to vote. So, knowing that predicting from the swing works, when do they call the seat? They use a thing called a 99% confidence interval. What they're trying to do here is identify when the candidate is going to definitely or most certainly have more than 50% of the vote. So what we're looking for is mapping out their prediction and hoping or finding where it is above the 99% confidence interval so that we're confident that that candidate will remain above 50% and not cross back under. If you think about flipping a coin 10 times, it's weighted 50% heads, 50% tails. We know that it should be about 5 heads out of 10 when it's like that, but we wouldn't be surprised if we got 3 out of 10 heads, 4 out of 10 heads, 7 out of 10 heads. But if we flip it 100 times, we'll be very surprised if we get 70 out of 100 heads, and then thinking the coin is weighted towards heads. So that's the logic being used here. So let's see these two conditions in action. The first one being that we want to have at least 3% of the vote counted. And the second is that we want to look at where the prediction is above the 99% confidence interval. And that happens here at less than 6% of the vote counted. The ABC is able to call the seat to the Liberal Party candidate. What could possibly upset this prediction? Well, actually, pre-polling and postal voting, which is trending up at the moment, you can actually look at current numbers on Antony Green's website. He updates it daily coming up to the election. So the ABC adds a little bit more variance to their prediction. What does this mean? It just means they wait that little bit longer before they call the seat. And that's it. That's how we know how they can call a seat with less than 10% of the vote counted, and why Antony Green is so confident he can call the election before 7:30 p.m. if it can be called on the night. If you want to hear more, he has got a 30-minute video here on election night analysis, art or science. And if you'd like to know more about what I do, here is a link to my website. You can find out about my short courses and data coaching. So thanks so much for watching, and please share if you like this video.